Thank you all so much for coming. When you do something like this, you never know whether you're going to get 1 or 500, and it's a great thrill to see so many of you here today. Some of you have travelled huge distances, not least of all some of our speakers. Some of our speakers are coming from as far away as Yorkshire. We've got people here today from East Anglia, Surrey, the East Midlands, Cornwall, Sussex, and London, of course. So we're so proud to see so many people. Thank you all very much. Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to say another thank you, and that's to some people who won't know that they're going to be thanked. There's a gentleman sitting fairly near the back who should have been in the New Year's Honours list for several years, and he's a gentleman called Hugh Mulwyn Hughes. He won't thank me for mentioning him at all, but he was the founder of UKIP, and he has worked tirelessly, and I mean worked, and been very generous, not only in his time but with his money, and helping us all here in Wales to get where we did, to attain Brexit. Hugh, you won't thank me for this, I know, and you'll be so embarrassed, but really, you need a big hand of applause. And the reason why you're all here today is I came down to give a talk to one of Hugh's groups about 6 weeks or 8 weeks ago, and as true to form, when we finished and went back to his house with his wife, we sank a couple of bottles of wine till 3 o'clock in the morning. So we decided that we needed to do something, not just talk about it. And so we came up with the idea of the Great Resist. And that's for everybody. It's the people, not politicians. We've given up with politicians a long time ago. But it's the people's answer to the Great Reset. So Hugh, those 2 bottles of wine I think were well spent. Thank you very much. The other person I'd like to thank is the person who's sponsored here today. It's a chap, very unsung hero called Mark Edwards. Now Mark's done this in memory of his parents, in particular his father, and anybody local to Newport will know Stan Edwards. And so, Mark, thank you for doing all this, and also thank you to the Neon staff, and for Chris at the back there, and for everybody that's come, and not least of all, of course, our speakers. We're going to launch today, and somewhere through the programme, we're going to tell you what you can all do to get the message out in your communities, because I'm well aware that speaking to all of you, we're speaking to the converted, although it's very good to see you, we've got to get this message out to those that don't know, and that's what we're going to come up with towards the end of the day. But, right, you've heard enough of me. Let's have our first speaker. Now, I love him dearly because I've worked in the same office as he for a very long time, and he has started Hearts of Oak several years ago now. And Hearts of Oak, if any of you have not seen, you need to go on to all the various channels, not necessarily YouTube, because he tells me that when I go on with him, he gets taken off. So I obviously don't say the things that the YouTube want to hear. Without further ado, Peter McElvenna of Hearts of Oak.
Thank you, Liz. We did have fun in that office together. The last time I was here, goodness, was running Neil Hamilton's campaign in 2019. That was literally the last time I was in Newport. So it's nice to come back. We'll not even go into the UKIP days. We'll leave that aside. Alternative media. We played Alex Jones' interview. Liz wanted Alex Jones here. Alex couldn't join us. He's in Florida for a week on holiday, but we did the next best thing and give you an interview. Hearts of Oak, we launched 2020. We never expected to be a media organisation. We simply launched in Westminster, February the 20th, 2020, as a kind of following on from UKIP. UKIP could never turn into a populist party like we're seeing across Europe. Difficulty of moving away from a single issue on a range of populist issues. And we thought, well, what do we do from that? And there are a lot of people, including Liz, who had been heavily involved in UKIP for years and years and years. So we thought, let's launch a populist free speech alliance that connects a lot of people together. So we launched, little did we know 2 weeks later the world would go into lockdown. It's a really bad time to launch an organisation when it's illegal to leave your front door. So we thought, well, what do? We have to do something. We're not going to just wrap up shop in 2 weeks and be the shortest organisation ever. So we thought, well, let's do interviews. So we started in April 2020 and started doing online interviews. Scroll forward 3 years later, we've done about 170 guests. Alex was number 170 on Monday. And we do 2 interviews a week, Monday and Thursday, and a news review on Saturday. We thought we need to do something. There was nothing in this space at all in media. So we started that, and we've grown and built up to where we are. Now, alternative media, there are a number of free speech outlets, predominantly in the States. You think of Blaze TV being huge. You think of Daily Wire. Obviously, what Ben Shapiro was built up is phenomenal, and the people he's brought together on a range of issues. And you've all seen Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? And what he's built up is phenomenal, and the response to that shows that these questions need to be asked, and you need organizations that are willing to ask those questions. Obviously, InfoWars, Alex has built out from the last 25 years into the biggest conspiracy theorist, fake news organization. Love it. You got War Room, obviously been on with Bannon, Steve Bannon many times. We've had him on our show, and what War Room has built up, they're, I think, the most downloaded daily news show online. Is huge. Gateway Pundit, Epoch Times, a lot of organizations there. Here in the UK, it's so different. The UK, a lot of the reason why it's different is because of funding. You've got big conservative funders, donors who fund the organizations there. I mean, War Room doesn't run on any money coming in, any donations from the public. It simply runs on 1 or 2 main backers, and they make that possible. In the UK, we are in a different situation. We have most of the conservative donors are happy funding the Conservative Party and don't really go outside. Maybe we'll fund something else like Reform or Acclaim sometimes, but there isn't really funding for a media op. I think the leader, the one that's doing the best is Carl Benjamin with Lotus Eaters. And I've been there in their studio in Swindon. Fantastic what they're doing. They've just moved to new studios. Carl was able to build that off the back of Sargon of Akkad, obviously being a YouTube personality, and being able to build what he is doing. But he now has 12 staff there in Swindon. And I said they've just moved from the single studio to a 3-studio set. And his plans, what they're doing, is phenomenal. But that's really the only major one in the UK. You've got Iconic with Gareth Icke running it, a great operation up in Derby. But apart from that, you've got Voice of Wales here in Wales, Dan and Stan. I love Dan and Stan. We've done a lot of things together. And they're certainly much more out and about, reporting what's happening, where I think Lotus Eaters are very much studio-based with our daily podcast. But you don't really have much else. Anything else is afraid to touch on any of the big issues. Anything else, I think, basically is entertainment. Like Trigonometry, I think, is entertainment, and I don't really know if they really believe or stand for that, if this is just something they want to do, something they were bored and they thought, let's try this. And they've done a great job production values, but they're afraid to touch on any of the vaccine issues. They're afraid to engage with Islam, the clash that we are having here. And simply they won't go near it. And you need a news organization, an entity that is willing to engage with all the issues. And I think Lotus Eaters do, Voice of Wales do, Iconic seem to. We are certainly up there and are very happy. And then you have to think, well, what is your line? Where do you go? What is the purpose of this? It's for education. It is, hopefully we have entertaining guests, but it is to make people think. But then you have to think, well, what is the purpose? And I think that boils down to what matters. I mean, outside you've got the cenotaph, people who died for the right for us to live in the freedom we have had up to now. That's been rapidly disappearing. But you talk now to the younger generations, and there's nothing they will want to live for, never mind die for. There's nothing they're passionate about. Part of that, I think, goes back to the collapse of Christianity here. As a strong Christian, one who grew up as a pastor's kid, was in church every Sunday, twice, from a baby, and you realize that Christianity instills values, it instills truth, it instills conviction. That is completely gone in our society. In our political sphere, we have no Christian leadership. We don't know what any of the politicians stand for. In the church, there's no Christian leadership. Wet Welby is certainly not any Christian leader. And I've worked in the Lord's for 10 years at Lord Pearson. I've watched his many speeches on environmental issues, on plastic bags. He's basically just Greta Thunberg, but in the House of Lords. And he doesn't really stand for anything. And I've been to a lot of Anglican churches, and I think they've lost their way and lost their basis and are more concerned about what the media may say to what they may say. So we've lost that, and I think that all boils down to truth. What is truth? That was a question asked 2,000 years ago when Pilate asked Jesus. And throughout the generations, throughout the centuries, society has had an understanding of, well, there is right and wrong, there is truth. Now we come to a point where the truth is that you're a cat. That's where we have come to. And you think, seriously, how did we get to this point where children can be whatever they want, and before it would be, yes dear, you can be whatever you want, that's fine, I would play along with there, but now, no. Legally, in California, they've just passed a bill that says the state can take your children off you if you don't agree with their pronouns. That's come from simply conservatives, that's come from simply people with common sense, standing up for what's right and advocating the public space, and simply only caring about, actually not caring about anything. not caring about anything. And I always thought that even when it impacted children, that people would stand up, they would take notice, they would get engaged. But we are not seeing that. And the whole sex ed conversation, parents are afraid, and we have a conservative government that for the last 13 years has watched over the destruction of our culture, of our society, and doesn't seem to do anything. Never mind looking at immigration or what's happening on that side. So I think when you look at media, or alternative media, and I'll look at some of the facts in a moment, it boils down to actually what you believe, what is true, what is best for society, what is best for the next generation, for our children growing up. And if we can decide what we want in a society, instead of the difficulty of railing against what we don't want our children to be animals. That should be a fundamental. We don't want our little boys to decide they are girls and then to go in and be sliced up. I know Kimberly will talk more about the sex ed stuff when she's here later on. But it is vital that we have an understanding of what is good, what is bad, what is truth. Truth is not subjective, it is objective, it is absolute. And when we can get around that, and politically there isn't that at the moment, so from our understanding at Hearts of Oak, then we have to use media, and we have to re-educate, which is a hell of a task. Whenever you look at the teacher training system through the 60s, basically that was when it was captured. That's the long march through the institutions, when it was grasped by communism. And I talked to Lord Pearson about this many times because he had a window into that, and he really followed the education so closely during the 80s. And he will give a whole story of how our education system has been taken over. And you just need to go to school, pick up your kids, and you say, okay, blue hair, okay. And as far that we thought we would send our children to school and they would be trained, they would understand, and it would be the 3 R's. Now it's so much more. Educational attainment is secondary along to converting them to whatever ideology many of our teachers believe. So that's where truth. Now, where are we on the alternative media? You're looking at platforms. So you've got, let's compare two. So we stream on 8 different platforms. We've had all different ones that have come and gone, and we'll take advantage of everything. And then we put on all the podcasting apps, and that's seen growth every month. But you look at YouTube. We all trusted YouTube. YouTube has, I see different figures of up to 90% of video traffic and higher. And YouTube is the go-to. And I sometimes fall into that. We're looking at my phone or my TV and you just think, well, YouTube is the one to go to. Yet we only put probably a third of our videos on YouTube. Any conversation on vaccine or on gender issues, you cannot discuss on YouTube. So anyone who, any alternative media outlet that holds onto YouTube and says that's their main outlet, they will have to submit to the censorship that YouTube have. They should know that. So you need to look at what else is available. We've used Getter a lot. We stream on Getter, social media platform, and that's done really well. Twitter supposedly is now free speech. I don't know whether I can completely trust Elon Musk, but here I'll take what we can get. And as long as we can use that to stream stuff on and there isn't restrictions, then wonderful. We use CloudHub, another great platform. And now streaming all the other ones, are put on Gab TV, on BitChute, on Odyssey. There's so much available that you can put it out. And it is retraining people from being lazy and just saying, well, it's YouTube. Or I'll just Google this. Google don't find it. If you Google Hearts of Oak, we're in like page 4 or something. Literally, they have no intention of helping us understand because, you know, the big tech are part of the problem that we face. But if you compare YouTube and Rumble are probably the main free speech competitor for YouTube. But yet they're miles apart. So at the end of 2022, Rumble's monthly active users went from 33 million to 80 million. So that's a surge of 140%. That's a great increase. The problem is that YouTube were 2.6 billion. So you've got 80 million, 2.6 billion. But YouTube only grew by 3%, where Rumble grew by 140%. So there are massive changes happening in the sector. We are simply ships on that sea, whether you're producing content like we are, whether you're consuming it. We are simply bobbing along and looking for avenues to get the message out. And if we can use a platform, Rumble, great. If Rumble disappears, like Parler disappeared, Parler was going well, and then suddenly it just disappears, and is now going to be reinvented somehow. So you cannot rely on one single platform, and that's why you can find our stuff on every podcasting app. People listen on the go. I like to watch, but however it is you consume your media. And I think one last thing I'll leave you with is, not just for us, but for all of these, is you need to fund platforms or organizations or whatever. The days of getting media are free are gone, and Google were phenomenal at making us believe that information was free, access to information was free. It is not. You pay for access to information on Google with your personal information. You are the product. You are the one being sold to advertisers. So that is the agreement, unintentionally, many of us entered into with YouTube, with Google, that we would sell our information. We'd give our information to them for free. We would become the product, and advertisers would make money from us. All these other platforms, they're doing something different. And if you look at YouTube is 33 times the users of Rumble, but Rumble is growing massively, as are all the others. If you look at some of the analytics on Getter, it's exciting how they're growing, and we're seeing a lot of our engagement on Getter, which then opens up a US audience as well. But it has to be funded, and if you like some of the ones you see, Lotus Eaters have a great subscription model, then go for it, become a subscriber and give a $5 a month or whatever. If you like Voice of Wales, do the same. You think whenever you look at like a tenner a month is, that's 30p, is it a day? It is so little what you can put in and what you can get out. So my last plea to you is, if you are enjoying, if you're benefiting, if you're being educated by those outlets that you choose to watch, then do consider being a partner with them, do consider funding. If you want to with Hearts of Oak, then you can do with Hearts of Oak. On our website, heartsofoak.org, there's a donate button. Many people give £5, £10 a month, more. And in fact, to entice you, and to leave you with this, we have t-shirts with us, and if any of you are giving monthly or want to give monthly, then come and find myself and you can have a free t-shirt. I'll take you at face value. Anyone who's here on Liz Phillips' invitation, I trust completely. So I absolutely trust you. And just a final thing, it's the last thing I want is to be on, seriously, the last thing I want. Whenever I was in UKIP, that was the fun part, of being behind the scenes, no one knowing who you were, and I loved actually making stuff happen and others getting the credit for it. It was much more fun. And now I find myself on a screen. It is literally the last thing I ever wanted, but times change and you have to fit with that. And the difficulty of actually getting other people to be willing to go because of the abuse, because of the grief that you face, that individuals face. Whenever you're linked with any of the guests we've had on, never mind Liz Phillips, goodness, you get criticized. And most people don't want that, and I get that. So either there's a way of people either supporting financially behind the scenes or sharing content. I mean, alternative media lives or dies on the ability of you who are consuming that to pass it on to others. Send it off in a WhatsApp group, in a whatever group, and say, just seen this great interview, love it, send it on. Like we had Richard Fairbrass from Right Said Fred on Thursday, and his line was not my pride. So he is someone who is a gay guy, and I wanted to find his thoughts on Pride Month, the holy month of Pride, and what his thoughts were, because me, as a very conservative Christian, I will come to the same conclusion as him, that it is dangerous, but we're coming from different starting points. And I really loved my conversation with Richard on Thursday, understanding where he was coming from. And so you can support by doing that, but remember, behind everything is there's a great team that work. Hopefully we'll have more people in front. We've got a couple of people who talked to, and I said, I want you to do your shows. I want you to do your shows in Hearts of Oak. The last thing I want is for me to be on more than 3 times a week. I don't want to be on any times a week. I'd prefer other people to do it. So we're talking to a couple of people about doing their own shows, either weekly or fortnightly, and just let them bring something different, something separate to it. The final thing I'll leave you with is what you see on the screen. So much work does go behind it, and every organization, everyone who does stuff on camera needs a great team behind them, and I couldn't pay tribute enough to our back office team who do so much work. Liz, Richard, Steve, and Kate, and so many other people on that team, and they actually make it happen. The social media, you have no idea how much social media. You just think, I see something, I'll post it on Twitter. No, Twitter, on Facebook, on Telegram, on Odyssey, on Minds, on Getter, on Truth, on Gab. That's just like, because everyone has their preferred platforms, need to get the message out. And there's so much, whenever you just see an interview or see a story, there is so much that goes behind it to bring out the best quality that we can get, the best guest that we can get, to really engage and help each of us understand an issue better. So we then, the next day, in our conversations, in our outlook, whatever, that we can do it so much better. And on that, again, if you're giving or want to give monthly on the heartsofoak.org website, then you can just come and find us and you'll get a free t-shirt. And my 20 minutes has elapsed, so I will pass you over to the great Liz Phillips once again. And look forward to chatting to you during the day. I'm around. I'd love to have you come to me and talk. Any thoughts you have, any criticisms you have, any guests you haven't liked or want, just come and fire anything at me. And it's part of the fun of getting out and meeting people and hearing what others feel, because I may think one thing doing an interview, you may have a very different opinion watching it. And I would love to have your feedback and any response you like. So feel free to come and grab me anytime today. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, most people launch things in London, And there was a huge reason why I wanted to launch down here. It's because so many people down here have launched their own resist, have launched small organisations that mean so much to so many people. And the first of this afternoon that we're going to have speaking is Catherine Thomas. I haven't seen Catherine, but I'm sure she's here somewhere. Catherine, where are you? Do you come on through? Here she comes. Catherine Thomas from Free Speeches Wales and West. And Catherine's a wonderful speaker, has done tremendous work, and like most people, gets pilloried for it. So Catherine, welcome, and here you go. Over to you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Catherine Thomas and I represent the Free Speeches Wales and West. We set up last year with the help of Toby Young, the journalist I'm sure you've heard of, and his Free Speech Union in London, which has done a great job of helping to protect those who speak out. We are independent of him. We run our own show here in Wales. We have monthly meetings in Cardiff. If you'd like to join us or find out more, you can just visit our stand over there, pick up a card and get in touch. I hope that today I can suggest some strategies to anyone who wants to support or promote the Great Resist in writing, whether that's blogs, articles, social media posts, or even scripts for speeches like this. If you don't think that writing is your strong point, I just hope to amuse you with an extraordinary tale about the latest mainstream media idiocy. Free speech is what enables all movements like the Great Resist. If we can't speak to each other, if we can't speak to those in power, and if we can't speak to our wider audiences out there, then all this is futile. My working life was spent as a journalist. My training, many years ago, included concepts such as neutrality, fairness, and evidence. I'm sorry to tell you that from my old training standpoint, things are not going well in the mainstream media. This past month, the podcaster Carl Benjamin, you may know as Sargon of Akkad, host of the Lotus Eaters podcast, complained to Ofcom that a BBC journalist, Mariana Spring, was spreading disinformation about him on her Radio 4 show. Now, this is interesting because Spring is the official BBC disinformation specialist. I assumed her title meant that she was against disinformation, but the BBC seems to have other ideas. Her series was about conspiracy theories. It is entitled Mariana in Conspiracy Land. What is interesting is that her narrative seems to have been written as, or in the style of, a conspiracy theory. There is sinister music in the background. There are numerous factual errors, unprovable theories, surmises, and wild leaps of faith on every side. The stupidest factual error was when Spring implied Benjamin's YouTube channel had been suspended. All anyone has to do to disprove this is go on YouTube, click on the channel, and you will find it fully functioning. The unprovable theories include the claim that Benjamin single-handedly radicalised an entire market town in Devon, turning 4,000 former hippies into far-right extremists. Now, I know that Benjamin is quite a good debater, whether you agree with him or not, but I did not know that his powers were that magical. There was a strange moment when one of the town councillors that Spring interviewed, Georgina Allen, gave Miss Spring a vivid, detailed account of 2 visits that Benjamin made to the town, and how upset she was when the second time many people turned out to support the vile right-wing visitor. But Benjamin says he's only ever visited the place once. Maybe someone went there after his sole visit, but it wasn't Benjamin. It's difficult to know what it is that Councillor Allen thought she witnessed. Obviously, it would be asking too much of Mariana Spring, the disinformation specialist, to fact-check her own documentary, so no clues there either. Spring also talks about a free newspaper that was distributed throughout the town, which is Totnes in Devon. The newspaper is called The Light. Spring suggests it is a dangerous publication that lures people towards fascist madness and violence. She belabours this interesting point. Although The Light was corrupting readers in Totnes, the paper itself was not created within the town. It came from out there, the darkness, beyond the circle of light that is Totnes. Perhaps it came from Paynton, or Newton Abbot, or Torquay, the home of the great anti-woke Antichrist himself, Basil Fawlty. Spring then imagines what the inner psychology of the newspaper's readers might be. Quote, "They hold a range of different beliefs which many would never act on." Unquote. No clue as to what these beliefs are or why they wouldn't or shouldn't be acted upon, but the implication is that they are evil. Spring's world is terrifying. It's populated by people who appear to be decent human beings, but who secretly harbour far-right thoughts. And the really cunning thing is, they never do anything about them. Be vigilant. They walk among us. This is a conspiracy theory. And the BBC has published this nonsense as a documentary. Moving on. We all are here today primarily because many people in power, elected and unelected, are spotting opportunities for increasing global systems of power beyond the point that many of us ordinary citizens are comfortable with. I think everyone in this room is here in order to oppose that increase of power. And the way that we will oppose it is with free speech. This includes free expression and lawful protest. In a fair world, you would be given platforms to do this. But if the mainstream media can create an irony pile-up, like Mariana Spring's show, describing events that never happened and dark states of being that no one can prove or disprove, what do you think they might say about any of you as soon as you pipe up? About even the smallest inaccuracy, the tiniest and obviously accidental typo? The first thing they will do to discredit you is to call you conspiracy theorists. You must ensure that your position is unassailable. I've talked a lot about Mariana Spring's radio show as an example of what not to do, because I don't believe that any serious politician or commentator could listen to her show without laughing or would take it seriously. So her voice has hopefully been wasted in that respect. After this meeting, if you decide to write up something about the Great Resist, if you believe that you have truth on your side, use that truth. There are numerous high-quality resources you can draw upon. There is the official United Nations website, the official World Health Organization website, or you can refer to well-documented events in recent history, such as what happened in Canada and New Zealand during lockdown. Don't squander free speech. Don't exaggerate like Mariana Spring to make a point. Don't make logical leaps, no matter how logical they may seem to you. Do not imagine that you know what other people think. Get hold of the original transcripts, the references, the recordings, the citations. Some of us may feel daunted from time to time by our relatively small number of supporters. But when it comes to things like the Great Resist, it is not the number of voices that matters. It's their quality. It's how persuasive those voices are. Every voice in this room counts, now more than ever. So make sure that your words are reliable. Words are actually everything. Words become debates, become arguments, become protests, become rules and regulations, become legislation, become charters, become the foundations of a free press and democracy, which is what we're all here for. All of you in this room must protect free speech by using it responsibly. It is your most valuable resource. In the battles that lie ahead, free speech will be your war horse if you direct it. It is the thing that will carry you forward, that will keep you above your opponents, that will enable you to strike when you need to strike. It must be protected, cannot be lost. Lose credibility, and you will lose everything. But if your voice is convincing enough, if you have and can show the research, the reliability, the clear thinking behind your words, people will listen to you. People are not stupid. They understand good, clear, logical arguments. If you have those, then all you will have to do then is talk to people. Thank you.